What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here in our podcast, what's going on in pop culture right now. So we got a short one this week because I am traveling, unable to get to as much as I normally would in a given week. That being said, we are talking about Hurry Up Tomorrow, the sixth album from The Weeknd. Obviously, that's a significant release. And we're also going to discuss the new Brazilian film, I'm Still Here, starring Fernando Torres, which was nominated for Best Picture. I'll have to get into that one as well. We'll be catching up on other stuff next week, so make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod, Linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See links below. Get the best of 2025 Spotify playlist link below. Let me know it's good, and let's get into it. What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of The Weeknd's sixth album, Hurry Up Tomorrow. This is The Weeknd's first album since Dawn FM at the beginning of 2022. It's been a long 3 years per The Weeknd standards. He hasn't really waited this long, really ever, to drop a release since he, of course, came to significance about 15 years ago almost at this point. And obviously, I think at this point, people understand The Weeknd is an institution. He was the number one artist on Spotify in terms of monthly listeners for almost the entirety of this 3-year wait between albums. He only recently got knocked off that top perch by Bruno Mars. And again, that just speaks to the strength of The Weeknd's catalog, particularly on streaming. He's heavily playlisted. He is incredibly global in terms of his reach, his audience, and the guy's just massive. As we know, Blinding Lights, the most streamed song on Spotify of all time. And even like the off-cycle times, like think about The Idol on HBO, which is a show I reviewed. Check that out if you missed it. I'm not going to get into relitigate the show now, but even the songs from that became big, particularly two of them, Popular, which was my number one song of 2023, and also One of the Girls featuring Jenny. Both of those are billion stream songs too. Like the guy just puts up numbers. But that being said, he's also a significant album artist. I previously ranked all of his albums through Dawn FM. Check that out if you missed it. That's linked below. Now we have a new entry completing the unnamed, I believe, trilogy that The Weeknd began with After Hours in 2020 and continued with Dawn FM, now concluding with Hurry Up Tomorrow. We had two singles for this album last year, Timeless featuring Playboi Carti and Sao Paulo featuring Anita. And Timeless, that was a song that when I first heard it, I didn't really care for it, but it really grew on me, and I think it grew on a lot of other people because it's about at 500 million streams on Spotify right now after a handful of months. Maybe the Cardi fans are pumping that up, but it is kind of cool, I guess, that The Weeknd and Cardi now have two really big songs together. Not a collaboration you would have thought would have happened. Nonetheless, the question remains, how does Hurry Up Tomorrow stack up against The Weeknd's very robust discography of albums and mixtapes? The Weeknd's sixth album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, unfortunately crosses the very fine line between cohesion and monotony. This album is just a bit too long and a bit too samey. If this was pared down and focused a bit more, I think you have a really good album in here. Similar to Dawn FM, that album's biggest strength is its sonic cohesion and the clarity that you get listening to it. Hurry Up Tomorrow just needed some editing because there's some great songs on this once again. At the end of the day, not all of your albums can be your best one. And The Weeknd, there is a high bar for his work. To me, though, this is just diminishing returns with this trilogy of albums. I initially thought we were going to go in a bit more of a funky direction, a bit groovier with the first track, Wake Me Up, but that ended up not really carrying through with the rest of the album. Still, there are great vocal melodies on this. We know how talented The Weeknd is as a singer. I do enjoy the beats on here for the most part. It just, again, it gets a bit monotonous after a while. One of my favorite Weeknd lyrics in some time is on Without a Warning. I should have been sober, but I can't afford to be boring. There's good stuff here. The Weeknd hasn't made any bad albums, but to me, this just doesn't really stand up to the high standard we hold for his albums. As I mentioned with Wake Me Up, I think that song as an intro really works because it starts off very orchestral, very cinematic. Then you have the bass drop in, very funky, groovy chorus from Abel. I enjoy the song a lot, and that brings us right into track 2, Cry For Me, which is kind of lyrically very toxic Weeknd, very old school Weeknd, where he'd be a bit more frank with that toxicity, and that's been a bit sanitized over time. I think the biggest strength of this song is the vocals on the chorus. Very lovely. I think that core vocal melody is great. Beat may be a bit messy, but I like the song overall. The vocal effects, like Weeknd singing chopped up at the end, also really cool. Sao Paulo is a song that I didn't really care for at all as a single, but it does work a bit better in the context of this album. At least it flows better. Then we get to a sleepier section of the album I didn't really care for. Baptized in Fear, Open Hearts, Opening Night, nothing too great there. I did enjoy Reflections Laughing just because it's a bit of a vibe shift, a bit of a kind of wakes you back up. And I think Travis Scott's feature works really well on that song. And then that waking up, so to speak, really continues with Enjoy the Show, which is just a completely different beat. And you have Future popping in unexpectedly, crooning, and then rapping. I think it's a great performance from Future. Following that up with the next song, Giving Up on Me. Drum kit, super upbeat, old timey like sample in the middle, leading up into this piano switch up. Those three songs like really like wake you back up, and it's like, why did we even have these other three songs, which are just lesser versions of songs the Weeknd's made a handful of times already? That's kind of my problem with this album, is that we go up, we go down, we go up, and like it's hard to feel the cohesion. Because at least with Dawn FM, maybe an album that doesn't reach the highs, the hits of some of his other albums, at least the cohesion was really like easy to follow and brought you in. But to me, there's just not enough going on with Hurry Up Tomorrow to appreciate the similarity of production. That's why I feel it leans a bit more into monotony. I can't wait to get there. Also, highlight for me, I thought the background vocals were very groovy, and then you have the Weeknd singing with almost this like staccato rhythm, I think, over these snares. Really fun delivery. Take Me Back to LA, I thought that one was really smooth. I love the synths, good drums. Big Sleep definitely reminded me of past Weeknd Daft Punk collaborations. Obviously, not reaching the highs of some of the biggest songs of his career, but similar thematically, production wise. Give Me Mercy. Again, we're back in a better, more lively stretch. I like that one. I think Drive's okay. The Abyss, Red Terror, though, kind of lose me again. But second to last track, Without a Warning, as I said, one of my favorite lyrics from him in some time. I should have been sober, but I can't afford to be boring. Kind of brought me back to one of my favorite deep cuts of his, Faith, on After Hours. If I OD, I want you to OD right beside me. Like sometimes he can like really hit you. Hurry Up Tomorrow, I don't know. Like I'm gonna give it some more time. I'm sure there's gonna be some more hits out of this. If Timeless can become a big hit, there's stuff that'll be big here. Obviously, we know how big of a successful streaming artist the Weeknd is. Like he will be beaten over the head with one of these songs for sure, whether it's actually good or not. So we'll find out. But yeah, this just doesn't really have as much, I think, under the hood that's that interesting compared to some of his other albums. And again, it speaks to the strength of those other records more so than it's a demerit against Hurry Up Tomorrow. I think again the biggest sin with this album is just that it's needed editing. It's just too long, and as a result, it comes across as unfocused, and the really cool, interesting moments that really grab you get lost by these kind of sleepy stretches that didn't need to be out. So that's Hurry Up Tomorrow. Let me know what you thought. If you liked it more than me, please let me know why. What songs grabbed you? See links below for our Weeknd album rankings, where we ranked all the other albums and the mixtapes. Really good episode, long one, talked about the Weeknd's whole career in that. So we've been doing this for some time. So let me know what you thought of that if you missed it. And for more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with the review of I'm Still Here, the new political biographical drama film from Brazilian director Walter Salles. This film has made a lot of waves lately, namely being nominated for Best Picture, star Fernanda Torres being nominated for Best Actress after winning Best Actress at the Golden Globes. This film is also nominated for Best International Feature Film at the Oscars and has a lot of momentum for it. There's been a lot of love for the movie ever since it debuted back at Venice last year, where it won the Best Screenplay Award. And the film is a big hit in its native Brazil, where it's actually the highest grossing local film in Brazil since COVID. I'm Still Here tells the story of Eunice Paiva, played by Fernanda Torres, who in 1970 Brazil saw her husband taken away by the military regime ruling the country at the time, and her family never saw him again. And obviously that is harrowing, dark subject matter, but I think it's a really interesting story, especially one that's probably not super well known outside of people who are super familiar with, 20th century Brazilian history. I really liked I'm Still Here. Fernanda Torres got a lot of love for her performance, and she does a great job in this film. The awards are well earned because it's not a flashy performance. It's not performative grief and anguish. I think she does something a lot more interesting with how she holds a lot of that back but still communicates a lot of emotion in this movie that she largely has to carry as her character's husband is kidnapped by the military regime and she never sees him again. The movie also really expertly brings you into this time, immediately sets us into this world of 1970 Brazil, Rio specifically, and we get to know the Paiva family, 5 kids and their 2 parents. The friends are around all the time. Very expansive, great design, and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And when it finally does, I think it's a really effective emotional movie. And then as the movie moves on, I think it does a really great job of kind of narrowing home, I think, the themes of the film. I thought the ending was perhaps a bit slow, but overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I think all the awards attention is really well earned. It's certainly in my top 20 of the year, worthy Best Picture nominee, despite the perhaps initial surprise of that happening, given the lack of early award season narratives around the movie. As I said, Torres is really great as Eunice. She has to, I think, do a lot. Her character ages later in the film as well. A lot of time passes. So I think it's a really great performance. Again, it's subtle. It's not flashy. I also really enjoyed Selton Mello as Rubens Paiva, her husband. He's only in the beginning of the film, of course, but I really enjoyed the warmth communicated with this family. I think you really start getting connected to the 5 kids, even if you don't really get to know them too much, because ultimately it's a movie about Eunice. What I also really appreciate about the movie is how it talks about people trying to live their normal lives when they're within an autocratic system, literally living within a military dictatorship that had a coup d'état happen, within the past 10 years, trying to be parents, be a family, and not let the kids be kids, especially the little ones, right? I love how that's such a big focus in this movie as well. It's not just about the adults, and that's perhaps a side of living under authoritarianism that you don't often see portrayed in film, is the attempting to maintain some kind of normalcy and dignity in any way you can. To me, that's the biggest strength of the film. And the ending, I don't know if we needed the 2 flash forwards. I guess there was the recurring motif of the family photo, the before, then the end. Is it cool to see Fernanda Montenegro, the star of Walter Salles' most famous film, Central Station? Was it cool to see her play older Eunice at the end? I guess if you're a big Walter Salles head, that's cool. But I didn't necessarily need it, because I just don't know if I feel like the first ending in the movie was really effective with the death certificate, and I don't know if we needed the other 2 endings to they don't really add it all too much. But really enjoyed the movie. I think it's certainly worth seeing. I think the awards attention, including Fernando Torres' nomination, really well earned. Let me know though, what'd you think of the movie? What was your favorite aspect of it? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do it for the pod this week. Again, a shorter one because I'm away, but next week I'll be catching up. So we got a few big events, of course, namely the Grammys will have happened, the Super Bowl halftime show from Kendrick Lamar, we'll talk about that, new music from Ive and Ali Alexander. I'm sure some other stuff will come up that I'm not thinking about yet. So make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod, see links below. Get the best of 2025, Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know it's good, and I'll see you next week.